Hey everyone, I'm Rick, creator of Revelation Skirmish, which is a destructive combined arms miniature game set in the Revelations universe. Today we're going to be assembling what I would consider to be the crouching, or kind of like in motion, Anya WarMech for the Faust Union. Now, whether you 3D print this yourself or you buy the print from our online store, for this particular kit, you're going to find that you have 9 different parts for the Anya. And this is going to be both legs, the pelvis, a torso, the jumper pack, the left arm, which also has the hand being separate, the missile launcher, and then the right arm cannon. And you're also going to need a 50mm WarMech base. The notches, as always, are the rear arc for the sake of assembly. All right, so I've got this all cleaned up of all the print supports and everything, and I'm pretty happy with it. So we're gonna go ahead and start putting it together. You can either decide to do the top first or the bottom. Sometimes it just kind of just depends. In this particular instance, I really want to make sure that I capture the in motion thematic look of this particular WarMech. So I want to make sure that I start with the legs and then I can angle the pelvis the way that I want to. So that way I can really kind of accentuate or get the feel that I really am looking for this Anya. So I'm gonna go ahead and use some Zap-A-Gap super glue. I've gone ahead and leveled as best I could the bottoms of the feet, because sometimes you'll have a little bit of extra resin, especially like on this panel here of the foot, the rectangle panel. And that way I just kind of make sure that it's going to be pretty level, so that way, and I can always shave it down some more if I find that by the time it comes for basing, maybe there's rocks or gravel or some other type of material on the base, and I have to kind of, mess with things a little bit further, but I try to get it pretty close when I start doing this. So for me, sometimes what I'll do is just take one leg, kind of figure out roughly where I want the pelvis to be, and I'd like to go ahead and point out. You'll notice that on the pelvis there's this rectangular panel with 2 lines on it. That is actually the rear of the pelvis. So you want to make sure you have this little tiny square as the front, okay? That's a big deal because you don't want to put that on backwards. So with the ball joint, I'll kind of line it up, kind of get like a rough idea. So if this leg is down like this, I might want this one leaning a little bit forward, so that way I can kind of get it like it's about ready to lift off into the air. So let's put on a tiny bit of glue, get the legs set up, and then we're gonna go ahead and, like I said, angle the pelvis down just slightly. And I found, sometimes by just doing a little bit of angle with the pelvis really allows the model to have a lot more character. And that's something that we've tried really hard with modeling these WarMechs, is to try to put enough flexibility so that when they're being assembled, you can be a little bit more creative. And now you could go ahead and you could print, with the lower half already assembled, and you just kind of just trust us for how we've decided to do it, or you can do it like I'm doing now, where the legs and the pelvis are separate. And that's my preferred method myself. Go ahead and put another little tiny drop of glue. We're going to make sure I'm going to hold one leg down on the whatever surface that I'd be using, in this case the cutting board, and then put the other leg on, and then that way I can kind of force the feet to be pretty level, because there's nothing worse than doing this and then realizing one foot is going to be way off the ground, and then I got to find some rock or some debris in order to be able to have the mech posed, and nobody wants to do that. I mean, if you want that, you want it to be the plan from the beginning. And a good way to know if you've got the legs pretty level is whether or not they can go ahead and stand right now on their own, which they are, so success. So we're gonna just kind of work around that, because I kind of put that right in the center. It's good enough, we can just move it, okay. So for doing the top assembly, let's go ahead and work on the back of the mech first. So we're gonna go ahead and glue the jumper pack on first, then the missile launcher. So with the jumper pack, you're gonna have the nozzle is always going to be down, regardless of whatever pose we may eventually sell of the jumper pack, it's always gonna be angled outwards or downwards. And you'll know that it's the bottom of the jumper pack. If these wings here, these vents, you'll notice there's a little tiny grates in there, if you see it in person. Those are gonna be at the top, all right? So we'll just put a little tiny bit of glue here on the jumper pack, and we'll take it, and you're going to be aiming for the bottom. Actually, it kind of just marries up pretty nicely there to that entire rectangular boxy shape there on the back. And that's all set. The missile launcher, obviously the holes for the missiles are going to be going forwards, and the square on the bottom is a little tiny guiding peg that's going to just slide in right like that, and that's just going to be super easy for us to be able to know exactly where it's going to go onto the Anya. Go ahead and plug that in there. All right, that's all set. Now, I don't want to put too much pressure yet because I know everything's still curing, but for the arm, maybe I want to do a little bit to the side and kind of aimed a little bit level, like it's trying to shoot out a WarMech, so I want it to be aimed up a little bit higher. And just in case, just whether or not, however you're assembling this, maybe you want to customize things. There is a ejection port here on the side, so we know that that's going to be on the right because this is the right arm, so we know that it'll be aimed outwards from the torso, right? Correct. Just plug that in there. Kind of give that a brief moment. Actually, we're going to angle it just a little bit up because we're going to have the torso aimed down slightly due to the pelvis. Now with the left arm, before I do the hand, I want to kind of figure out what I want. So I want something where the arm is kind of outward because it's either about to lift off or it just landed. So we'll go ahead and glue that in here. And that'll allow us to pose that as that dries really quick. Put that there into the ball joint. Now for the hand, I'm going to have it kind of facing the player, or actually facing me right now. I think that'll look a little bit cooler than having it tilted downward. Have it tilted forward just slightly. And then comes time to mount this to the pelvis. And because it's a ball joint, I can kind of lean it forward a little bit more. And then when it comes time and I'm ready, I can go ahead and glue it onto the base. And because I'll end up playing with a model that's gray before I end up painting it. What I have found for the WarMechs, because like I said, I want to be able to paint them and I want to be able to play with them until they're ready sometimes. So I'll just put one little bead of glue somewhere on one of the feet that I can easily get to. And just as a side note to point out with the arc, the rear arc being the notches, I want the way I assemble mine, wherever the eyes or the optical sensors are looking, typically where the torso is facing, that to me is considered to be the front, so I want that to be lined up with the rear arc. And we want to make sure his feet are all the way on the base. All right, and now the Anya is all finished. Got it all ready to go. I can play with it, start painting, whatever I want to do. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you'd like to purchase one of these Anyas yourself, you can click the link in the description, or you can go to our web store. Talk to you guys later. Bye.